everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you items that I think are necessary when starting miniature painting as a beginner. I'm going to share with you all the items that I first purchased when I started miniature painting, and I feel like it's a good place to start as a beginner. Now, we all know that starting a new hobby can get quite pricey, so I was able to keep this list at $50 or less even, depending on which route you want to go and where you want to spend more money or less money. Okay, so first things first, you obviously need a mini, and depending on which route you kind of want to go and where you want to spend your money, I didn't include the miniature in the $50 price. I have a 3D resin printer, and that's how I'm able to get all the minis that I paint. Okay, so apart from the mini, obviously you need paint. And paint can get a bit overwhelming. You don't have to go out and buy all of the paints. I would just stick with a starter set of paints. That's gonna be the best bang for your buck. I've had a lot of luck with the Vallejo brand, and you can get a kit for 8 paints for $20 on Amazon. I actually spent a little bit more when I first started, and I got the 16 pack for $30, which ended up being a little bit more than $1.50 a bottle, which is very, very good. But in this $50 price range, if you want to just stick with the 50, then I would just do like a $20 starter kit with like your basic colors. And of course, you can always go to the store and purchase each of them separately. Vallejo is about, I want to say like $4, and then Citadel, those are a little bit more pricey. These are like between $7 and $8 for the pots. All of our Citadel paints are from our local Warhammer game shop. We do want to support them, so we do purchase our paints there. But when I first got started, I just bought a cheap set off of Amazon. Next are paint brushes, and these also can range from just a couple bucks to very, very, very expensive. I started with just a very, very cheap set, $10 for a pack of 10. Now, just there, we're at $30. This one ranges from as big as, I believe, 6 all the way to a 000. The ones that I use the most are probably zeros, double, triple zeros, 1, 2, and sometimes 3. As I up my game and as I up my technique, then I think maybe eventually I will obviously splurge and get a better paintbrush. But just know, personally for me, I didn't, and it's worked fine. Next, we need something to put our paints on. Now, a couple different ways you can do this. When I first started, I just used this little plastic paint palette from my daughter's paint set. That worked not great, honestly. These paints dry so quickly that you end up just wasting paint, because I would put a drop and then I would try and thin it out a little bit, and that didn't really work. I also tried a paper plate, and once again, they just dry and you just have to keep applying, and so you end up wasting paint. So I ended up investing in a wet palette. Now, the wet palette I purchased is by Army Painter. I think it was like $30+, which is not what you need to spend. For starting, there are some wet palettes on Amazon for like $10, or you can make one yourself. You can find a whole bunch of videos on YouTube on how to make your own wet palette, but basically you just get like a plastic Tupperware and you soak a paper towel, and then on top of that you put parchment paper, and that's where you're going to put your paint, on the parchment paper. Now for me, I ended up going with the wet palette because I knew that this was going to be a hobby that I was going to want to keep up, and so I knew it was going to be a good investment. The sponge works really well. It's probably been maybe a week since I've painted, and it's still damp in my wet palette, so it's never gotten moldy, and I highly recommend it. Now we are at $40. Last thing that I do think is quite important is priming your mini. I do think it makes a big difference because you want your paint to last. So spending an extra $10 on a primer is definitely going to make it worth your while. So there's 2 different options. You can either go with like a liquid primer where you paint it on, or you can do a spray can primer. This is just the Rust-Oleum paint and primer spray for $7. I think it was like $6.50 at Hobby Lobby or Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart. Really, really inexpensive. And this one was about $10. I think it was 8 something or $9 on Amazon for the Vallejo primer. Honestly, just stick with one, whichever one you want to do first. If you want to paint it on, great. If you want to spray it on, great. You don't need both. I believe when I first started, I started with the spray can, and then I moved up to the paint one for the airbrush. And so now we are at $47 plus tax, about $50 for your starter, not including your mini. That's kind of where it gets a little tricky. You can find figures on Amazon, you can buy them from different websites, or you can go into like a Warhammer game shop. But there are some starter kits that do come with minis. Warhammer, for example, has one, and it comes with 6 paints, a paintbrush, and it has 4 figures, and that is $30 on Amazon. Another option is that the Army Painter just came out with a new box set called the Fanatic Starter, and it comes with 11 paints, a paintbrush, and it comes with a mini, and that is $40. So you can basically start painting with a kit for under $50. And that includes a mini. All right, so I really hope this video was informative. I know starting miniature painting can be very overwhelming. As a beginner, this is what I have found to be the most helpful. But just know that you can really start this hobby and not spend that much money. Let me know down below what you think is essential to a beginner starter set for miniature painting, and I will see you next time in another video. Bye!